if you go in talking only about designing heat exchangers or very niche, your niche, they're not going to know what to do with you. You have to really highlight the broadness of your skills. And again, how your skills in oil and gas, in traditional engineering, relate to the challenges. Because let's face it, engineering is not just about doing a project. It's about really exploring and developing things that have never been done before.
Welcome back to another episode of Digital Innovations in Oil and Gas. And on today's conversation, I'm going to be joined by a friend of mine, Phil Black, who is a professional engineer and innovator and digital enthusiast, who I met, a few years back. But he's undergone some really interesting career transitions that I think are really important for anyone who's working as a professional engineer, especially as you're confronting not just this wave of digital innovation, but broader energy transition issues, and to really think about how do you actually go about doing a career transition. And Phil's been through this, so it's always useful to hear from the voice of experience. Phil, welcome to Digital Innovations in Oil and Gas.
Jeffrey, it's so good to be here once again, talking with you about the journey and all the exciting things going on in energy.
Yeah, it's a very dynamic landscape this year. It's going to get increasingly dynamic, actually, because the climate pressures aren't abating, and we're also going through a major wave of political change, not just in the United States but around the world, as democracies grapple with leadership challenges and hold elections and the like. But really, let's turn this conversation more towards you personally and
that's a big topic.
No, we're not going to go dealing with that. I know that today you work as a coach and a trainer for engineers who are seeking career change. But let's really unpack your own personal and professional background. How did you? Where have you come from? What's your story?
Sure. I'm a chemical engineer who, surprise, surprise, ended up in Houston working in oil and gas after I finished. I spent, 20 years working in automation and control at different consulting companies for all the big energy majors, BP, Exxon, Suncor, Total, you name it. I've probably been in the facility or worked with one of their control systems.
And those would include presumably domestic U.S. principally, or have you actually had opportunity to work internationally, globally?
I've worked in the Middle East as well, helping chemical companies over there as well set up their control systems and primarily manage the data, move the data from the sensors through the firewalls up to the business systems. That's really been where I've specialized.
As a sort of a background. Now, much of that world started to change quite dramatically at the probably turn of the century, where digital innovations started to take root. So let's wind the clock back to your first big career shift, when you first noticed how this wave of digital innovation was happening. Let's just give us a little bit of a context, if you don't mind.
Sure. It was about 2017, 2016. I think cybersecurity was just starting to become at the forefront. We've had a few major attacks.
Yeah.
And so especially in the Middle East, companies were really locking down their systems. It wasn't just, go log in to the PLC direct from the internet and start making changes. No, there was firewalls and you name it. Everybody was trying to secure all the legacy systems that had been designed way before there was such thing as passwords or encryption or anything like that. So that's really when I started noticing the importance of data, security of data, but then as well, there were so many new devices coming online. Up to, early mid 2000s, it was always pressure, flow, analyzer, temperature, maybe a few others, but that was it. They were all wired, the DCS.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Now we had all these new types of equipment that you could just kind of bolt on or stick on and start pumping information, giving a lot more analysis ability that you didn't have to run through the control system with all the security, which caused a lot of heartache to IT and OT departments.
Yeah.
So that really kind of is where the explosion of data that was available from all these new sensors started my journey through digital innovation.
So what was your career goal at that time? Because it sounds like you could just keep you could continue on as your professional chemical engineer, or you could do other things. Like what was changing in your life that gave you the impetus to say, hey, there's other things here that I could be doing.
Well, liked doing the technical work, but
Yeah.
I really wanted to expand and really look at the big picture, not just, I wanted to learn kind of how to architect the entire system, all the way from the sensor all the way up into the cloud systems, the analytics capabilities, machine learning was just coming online. So I wanted to take a much larger view into the niche I had established. And so
Right.
I was looking at how can I do something bigger? I know what I'm good at, but I need to do something bigger. And I want to start working more at the forefront, not kind of at the end with all the legacy upgrades and migrating and lift and shift. I wanted to really be designing something new. So that's kind of what sparked my interest in, hey, this digital thing has legs. The amount of data is not going to decrease.
No.
So I want to be at the front helping the customers, helping the clients figure out how to manage, sort through, and do something useful with that data.
Now, was that not really practical in your current role or your role at the time? Like, why would what would motivate it, or what was going on that would say, hey, a bigger change here is warranted?
I think for me, the bigger change was starting to travel. At the time, Wood, I was working for Wood,
Yep.
and they really wanted to do a lot more in the Middle Eastern market. So I started
Uh,
traveling and then I had to actually learn how to talk about what I did, not just do an engineering report and turn it in. I had to
yeah.
get up on stage and actually learn how to create a compelling reason for why customers needed to hire us
Yeah.
to help them manage their data. So I think that really I until then I had really been working kind of with the other technical engineers in the plants, in the with the control systems, but then really that launch into needing to speak publicly about it and then talking about it, the work I did in a much different manner, really helped me realize there's a lot more dimensions to this than I could just be a technical engineer. But you know what? I like getting up and talking to people and sharing my passion
Yeah.
for the data, which is kind of a weird thing to have passion for, I know, but
Well, I think that's where you and I actually met. Was at a conference where you were on stage speaking, and I remember at the time, most engineers who go up on stage, this not it's not their forte. Let's put it that way. It's like they're certainly not trained to do that, and that yet there you were on stage, with intent and being persuasive and presenting in a thoughtful manner. So it had this major sweep of change happening. You had this traditional role. You could have stayed in that role, but you were staring at that bigger world, thinking there's more to this than just sticking around. That gets us to what role could you or did you visualize for yourself? That in beyond as a advocate for change. Like, what did you see as the possibilities for yourself?
Well, I discovered that I really was able to connect on stage with people. I started going more with the sales team to talk about the front end of the process. Here's why you need to invest in this capability. And going through that process, I really said there's a whole lot more opportunities for me. And so I need to think about, but until then, I was pretty much, I'm a technical guy. I'm just gonna keep doing this and be in my happy little place. But that exposure to the different sides, the front end side, really made me say, I want to be somewhere where I'm in leading change, and maybe I can influence it from the front end as well. So that to me was a big that working with the sales team and really, okay, what's the strategy for talking to this company? What are their problems, instead of just here's a spec, go implement it, or here's what you need to do,
Yeah.
really coming up and helping them discover their problems. And I started seeing all these vendors wanting to sell these IoT devices, and every IoT vendor got to use my cloud, got to use
Yeah.
my cloud, gotta, and so it was just there. That was not going to be scalable for anyone, any big company.
Yeah.
It might work for one or two installations, a few pieces of equipment, but when you're going across the globe, across multiple sites of different ages,
Yeah.
you can't have everything going in different places. That just creates more problems.
Yeah. Yeah, so that kind of architectural problem that the industry was creating for itself unintentionally, but that competitive dynamic to trying to own the whole landscape, create a garden within which, say, if you're a Siemens shop, you're only on Siemens technology, and that forces you to confront this architectural question. But that in turn creates the question of how do you architect your way around that so that you don't go down that pathway as a sort of industrial challenge. This, of course, brings me to this. You have the vision for yourself as working in a new field. You probably saw that you could bring some strengths to this, but what did you see as the kind of the gap? Like, what's the gap that your standard professional engineer is going to have to come across so that they can be successful in a different career?
So for me, it was really looking at all the data, all the problems with it, and then saying what new type of technology could help address this. You know, Nobody was asking for a solution in a specific area, but then at the time, blockchain was really big. I started looking into that,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I just started spending any extra time I had, either at work, when I had a few extra downtime between projects, start looking in the technology, looking in the possibilities, and saying, okay, yeah, this is being used for cryptocurrency, but is there another use for it? And so just that, I would say, curiosity in terms of looking at something and can this be applied to an industrial context? And then starting to do it. I had no idea what I was doing. I just said, okay, let me try creating a node. Let me go on YouTube and look at videos. So yeah, there was no pretty solution. It was just let me start seeing what I can do to do. And then asking people I work with, do you know what we can do with this? No, I don't know. I mean, just conversation. So really having the willingness to, I guess, ask the stupid questions. At the time, there were starting to be a lot of blockchain companies that wanted
Oh
to
yeah.
sell blockchain. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
getting on the phone, hey, I'm Phil at Wood. I want to talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
tell me about this? And of course, they were happy to someone call them and talk to them on the phone. And so just really starting to learn and starting to not be afraid to know nothing in an area. Because before I was the expert. I was the expert in data and IoT
Yeah.
and doing a little cybersecurity. But I had to go out and have the courage to be the dummy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's yeah, so
Take a risk,
you know
basically.
take a
Take the
risk
risk.
and just start calling. So
Yeah.
that led to a lot of side projects. I didn't get paid for them. Did a lot of stuff outside, but just and then you know what? I'll just start talking about it. Maybe people will maybe help me find some people doing interesting things. And so getting on LinkedIn and just, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's my idea.
Yep.
Here's what I learned. And just starting to talk without knowing exactly what I was talking.
Yes.
Again, just
No,
kind of
no
here's my
safety
journey.
net.
Here,
Yeah.
yeah, here's what I'm learning. I'm not an expert yet, but here's
Yeah.
what I'm learning.
Yeah.
And that was just that courage to be not be the expert once again. I think was a big shift for me.
Yeah, I think that's where I had seen you on stage was talking about blockchain technology in the context of sensors. But quite frankly, it doesn't. Blockchain's not really the. I mean, you could talk about anything. 3D printing, artificial intelligence, just the flavor of the day. Someone's got to take a risk, get out in front, and seize ownership of a topic, and be seen as someone who's at least curious, if not, I'm not necessarily the expert.
And then as I even started talking about it internally, I get a call or a text one day, hey, come in this meeting. Wood had hired a CTO, the first CTO. They wanted to be digital
Yep.
first.
Yep.
And they're like, "Hey, we heard this guy in Houston, Phil Black. He's doing something with blockchain." And I go in the meeting and I'm like, "Hi," and he's like, "I heard you know something about blockchain. Here's some money. Go figure out if we can do anything with it." And I was
Yeah.
just flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to set myself up for a different role specifically. I just wanted to do something different. But
Yeah.
that investment in learning something new paid off, because then now it wasn't just one person. Now I
Yeah.
had the CTO, I had a team,
And
and
budget
I had a
and some
budget
money.
to start really pursuing the avenue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that, again, having the courage to try something even though you don't know where it might lead,
Yeah.
can lead to opportunity.
Some sort of payoff. I know on LinkedIn you post frequently about your interest in impromptu theater. How does impromptu work? How does that flavor all of this? I just because I think of
So it's
sort of as
funny.
straight down the middle engineers. I don't think of stage actors doing impromptu comedy, quite frankly.
Yeah, who would think an engineer could be funny? I don't,
Sounds
it's
like a
not me for
joke.
sure. Not, yeah, I
Yeah.
know I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. While I was kind of going through this journey of technology and trying to figure out what I wanted to do next,
Yeah.
as go bigger in my career, I started taking classes at a local theater. It was COVID had just kind of finished, and I think my wife wanted to get me out of the house, so
So she signed you
she
up.
said she said yes. And I was like, what? It's like, try it.
Yeah.
So I go down there, and wow, it was hard. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, never done acting. I
Yeah.
mean, I got up on stage and talked, but that was prepared notes. I had a slide deck. I had,
Yeah.
I
Very
had
different.
my script, very different. But what I gained from improv was the courage to take personal risk. When as engineers, we're working in oil and gas and hazardous environments,
No
things
risk.
have to be right. Yeah,
We take no
you
risk.
can't, yeah, you have to double, triple
Yeah.
check.
Yeah.
There's a very good reason why you have to be so detail oriented and thorough, because there's people's lives on the line. You know, the challenge is, when it comes to personal risk, that mindset can take over.
Oh yeah.
And so you get so focused on being risk averse in your career and in the important decisions,
Yeah.
that it's hard to learn how to be risk seeking for your personal opportunities.
Right.
And that improv forcing me to get up on stage, not have a script, not know where things are going to go with a group of other people,
Hmm.
that was a game changer for me, because it helped me realize, hey, I feel like as engineers, it's very easy to get, okay, we're moving along, making progress. Oh, now we have to change. Stop, stop, stop. Let's thoroughly analyze, think about it.
Yeah.
And, but you lose all the momentum of your progress to that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so improv really helped me learn how to leverage the momentum I had built in my career, and then use it and redirect it. So I didn't stop,
Yeah.
take 3 months to think about it,
Yeah.
take six
Yeah.
months to figure something out. No, start making little steps, start trying things, start calling people on the phone,
Yeah.
because you're leveraging the momentum you already have.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was the game changer, was that pivot aspect. Don't stop and do a 90-degree turn gracefully. I had this image of a dancer, pivot and jump higher,
Yeah.
because you've already
Yeah.
used that
You have your
momentum to,
momentum.
to
Yeah.
springboard,
Yeah.
to new levels.
And you're still working as a professional engineer, so it's this actually is not fantasy. It's just real world.
Yeah, I love doing engineering. I love
Yeah.
working with the people. I love working with technical people.
Yeah.
I mean, people who focus on the details. I can easily get lost in the details. So, it's good to be around people who think like think like that as well. But
Yeah.
then having the courage to embark on something new, and I found the passion for, again, working with other people to help technical talent unlock the potential, and again, learn how to embrace that personal risk
Yeah.
so they can really springboard into new possibilities. That's I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. So you went from a sort of very traditional chemical engineer, professional chemical engineer, to digital engineer, leveraging some of these ideas about seeking risk, recognizing when there was opportunity, laying the groundwork for you to be able to be successful. What are the sorts of things? I mean, you talked about going to conferences and giving talks. What other sorts of things did you do that created this context where when the opportunity presented itself, CTO calls, you are the guy that they suddenly zeroed in on?
Um, I think it was having the willingness to, put in the long hours where I didn't know what the output would be, and then another part was, based off the knowledge about blockchain, we had a project in China come up,
Yeah.
and they were all into how can we use the technology to, they had a problem, can this be solved? So getting involved and then doing work in that. So really getting my hands dirty help give me the confidence because it's like, okay, I'm not just doing a bunch of pilot projects. I'm
Yeah.
doing a real project that Wood is getting paid for. And I again, the people I met and the appreciation for the different cultures and the different ways of working has been fascinating for me personally.
Yeah, yeah, it creates gets you that, as you say, getting your hands dirty is really really important because people will recognize that you're not just talking about it, you're actually working to do something about it. And I think it's also true anything that's relatively novel in the world. There needs to be people who go in and experiment with it and see how it plays out. And that's probably a takeaway from this conversation, which is if you see these opportunities starting to emerge, don't just ignore them. So that creates your opportunity. So you basically did a career pivot. Could anybody do this? Do you think?
Yes, 100%. I mean, that's and I'm an engineer, so it's like I have a high bar for like
Yeah.
enthusiastically committing to something, but I am absolutely convinced that anybody, no matter how technical, no matter how focused you've been on one specific thing, if you can learn how to embrace that personal risk, that creative risk, and take a bold leap in a new direction. And a bold leap doesn't mean I quit my job and I do something different. A bold leap is a bold change, it can be a small step in a new direction while you're still doing what you're doing. And that's the message I really want to get across is that anybody can learn to pivot. You don't have to be an improv comedian or something like that or do something wild and crazy. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of having that boldness of spirit, boldness of character. And I
Yeah.
think oil and gas people have that. I mean, we have such talent in designing equipment, running processes, protecting the health and safety of people that it
Hmm.
really doesn't matter where we're going. If we want to do something in oil and gas or move in a completely different direction, it's about just learning to take those skills and translate them into the boldness and into a way that others can understand. If I had gone to the CTO and started talking about the mathematics and encryption and
Yeah.
cryptography behind blockchain, he would have been
Yeah.
like, "All right, see you later."
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about framing the
Yeah.
what you say to the right audience, and anybody can learn that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm convinced that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing one thing. If you feel like you've been pigeonholed, that's okay. Anybody can learn the art of the pivot, and
Yeah.
and it's a powerful moment for me, and I want that to be a powerful moment for everybody who I come in contact with.
Is this a good time for people to be thinking about career pivoting if you're in oil and gas in Houston? I mean,
Definitely.
oil and gas is still strong. Like if you're
Yeah.
if you look at the prices, prices are signaling that there's the markets hasn't evaporated yet. But there's a lot of transactions underway right now, a lot of merger activity. Why would this create the context for people to be thinking differently about their careers, at least from your perspective?
So for me, it's all about being in control of my career. I've been through several acquisitions and there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of no one knows what's going to happen. And so when there's uncertainty, what's the natural reaction? To kind of like, okay, don't do anything big, don't do anything bold, just kind of
Keep your
plod
head down.
along,
Yep.
keep
Yep.
your head down.
Yeah.
And that does not lend itself to positioning yourself for the best opportunities next, whether it's an opportunity with the company. Like you said, there's a lot of acquisitions going on. So if
Mhm.
you want to position yourself for a new role in the company, that doesn't come by accident. There are certain things you can do to start laying the foundation, making sure that they know who you are, that they know the impact you're having, especially if you're in digital and technology roles. Those are the most challenging to move across companies because they're doing their own projects.
Yeah.
And so why would they take on a risky project? So I'm passionate about especially digital people in digital and technology roles because those are important roles for innovation within oil and gas, and you have to steer your own future to be successful during a transition.
I'd also observe that the investment, the U.S. in particular, is going through the auspices of the Inflation Reduction Act, is creating a huge demand pull right now for people who understand how to really manage risk carefully, professional engineers, and then apply that same thinking to hydrogen projects, geothermal projects, fusion, all of these new innovations that stand to create the future world of energy. Need people who look like you, quite frankly. So I think there's another demand pull there. It's not just about transactions and M&A, but I think there's other macro forces. Do you sense that as well? Are you hearing from people saying that there's things out there that they want to be part of, and how do you do that if you're in a traditional career?
Yes, there's so many opportunities. I think the challenge for moving into the hydrogen, the geothermal is that these projects and these companies are much smaller. And so if you go in talking only about designing heat exchangers or very niche, your niche, they're not going to know what to do with you. You have to really highlight the broadness of your skills. And again, how your skills in oil and gas, in traditional engineering relate to the challenges. Because let's face it, engineering is not just about doing a project. It's about
Yeah.
really exploring and developing things that have never been done before. And that's exactly the situation the energy industry finds itself in. We have so many new sources coming online. How do you manage the complexity of of getting all the different sources of energy uh, not collaborated, but
Integrated,
combined and
integrated. Yeah,
integrated. Yeah,
yeah.
integrated in a way that it's actually useful when you turn on your lights or when a new plant starts up. How with this the data centers. You need energy. You need a steady, reliable, predictable supply. And as more sources come on, achieving that goal just exponentially increases the complexity. So
Yeah.
people from oil and gas are perfectly suited for these opportunities because we know how to manage complex systems. We know how to do that while managing risk.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to help people highlight. Highlight that part. Don't highlight just the spec or how many miles you drilled or how deep you drilled. That's good, but highlight how you manage the complexity and how you adapted to challenges when you didn't know what to do next, because that's the skill that these companies are desperate for.
You've worked to codify the ideas of doing a career pivot like this into a new venture. What can you tell me about it?
So this is the hardest part because I'm an engineer. I like to figure everything out. And I'm asking people, don't, I mean, I didn't do this 5-step process, engineer career pivot methods, a 5-step process.
Yeah.
I didn't, it wasn't like, oh, step one, I need to do this, step two. I mean, it was a lot of iteration, trying things that didn't work. And so my challenge to engineers is learn from another engineer. you know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is a wheel you don't have to reinvent.
Hmm.
You can take a proven and tried and true method and then use it again. It's all about the pivot. It's about accelerating, not stopping and figuring it out for yourself. And as an engineer, I admit I'm bad about that. It's like, so having the trust. This is not just oh, I made this up, or I didn't ask ChatGPT to figure, to come up with a system, but you still have to trust that it will work, and that's challenging, I think, for engineers, and for lots of technical people who are used to figuring things out for themselves. So have the trust, try it out. You'll find it'll pay back huge dividends for yourself, because you'll be able to move much faster, because I've already made the mistakes.
Yeah. I love it. Phil, thank you so much for coming on Digital Innovations in Oil and Gas today to talk about how you take a traditional career and combine it with these waves of change coming at us, and then launch your own new career, pivoting, as we use the word, into a new direction. It's been fascinating. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
This has been another episode in Digital Innovations in Oil and Gas. If you like what you've heard, please press that like button. Better yet, share this with your friends so that others can learn this great content. And if you want to learn more about Engineer Career Pivot and how you might do that, just check the show notes below, which will have links to the website. Bye for now.